Hi, friends. Well, today was a super fun day. I had a chance to hang out with one of the cast members and get some feedback from them, have some really great conversations about the show and just what was really fun about it was speaking with someone who obviously has an intimate knowledge of it and has embodied it in the way that I also have, but who was not integral to creating it and therefore has a certain detachment, a kind of wisdom in not being invested in any aspect of it other than appreciating what's good about it and noticing what's not working. And so that was just a very, very revelatory and really fun chat to have. So, and it really sends me into the next couple days. You know, I got a show in a couple hours and then I got another one tomorrow, and that's it. I can hardly believe that this era is ending. And it's time. It's time. I'm noticing that when I call home, Annalise, she's asked me the last several days, are you coming home? She has this she lights up. I told her I was driving home one night, and I just meant that I was driving home to my Airbnb, and she said, are you coming home here? I was like, I had to say, no, it's another 5 days or 6 days or whatever it was. So I really sense that it's time, and I really, especially as I've kind of talked about in the last week or two, maybe as this period starts to close, I'm actually being reminded of what I felt at the beginning of it, and how big of how heavy of a lift this is for Katie and for Annalise. To some degree for me, but in a different way. It's more like my absence causes the lift, and I've had the opportunity to do this work here, and that's been fantastic, and it's also had its share of deep lessons and all that. But I honestly also, I've talked about this, but that rhythm of family life and that sort of carrying that daily, there's almost nothing more it's just one of the deepest, I don't want to call it a challenge, but because it's not really, it's not so much a challenge as it is a way of life. But there really is, it's like it feels like a cosmic, spiritual responsibility and a job. It's a job. And it's the job of living with a full heart and of offering our heart to each other, and there's nothing restrictive or in any way negative about it. I just know that it feels like a lift, and so I know what Katie's been experiencing, and I know what Annalise has been experiencing. It's hard for her. So I'm connecting with that, and in some ways looking forward to the ending here, even as it's letting go of something really beautiful. So all of that has been showing up today. I also I've had the opportunity to, I think, integrate to some degree my experience of 2 nights ago, Mahashivaratri, where I stayed up all night meditating and doing Qigong, and I have really felt today, especially even more than yesterday, because yesterday was sort of the immediate. I took a nice long nap, but I was still really kind of in the aftermath of that overnight experience, relatively intense overnight experience. Whereas today I got a full rest, and I sort of I'm just carrying in my body that experience, and I've noticed there's a lightness, and there's an openness. Now that's always kind of what happens when I do a couple hours of qigong or meditation. Either one, both of them have this like it's like taking gunk and expelling it out of my body. And it's super cool to feel that today. It's also a reminder and a kind of provocation to do more of that. You know, I'm my big declaration to myself a little over a year ago initially was, I want to do 2 hours of meditation a day, because 2 hours of meditation a day is what every meditation master, I don't know if I'm overgeneralizing here, but many people have recommended that 2 hours a day is the amount of meditation that is kind of the right amount. And so that was kind of that was an aspiration or an impulse that I had when I first kind of came around to, okay, I'm centering spiritual practice really kind of at the core of my life. That's what I'm really about. Everything else is peripheral. And I set up that hierarchy, and it was amazing to see how all my other priorities, it wasn't that they were deprioritized. Much to the contrary, they slotted into place very clearly. It became not harder to hold my other priorities. It actually became easier, because by actually acknowledging this is the highest thing for me, everything else slotted into its proper place, and everything else had its proper space. Everything else has its proper space, because when we're sort of connected to the deepest part of ourselves, we also kind of like then from the top looking down at the rest of the system, we know how to say, oh, well, I need some time for this, I need time for that. This is really fundamental or foundational. I need to keep that, all that. Managing our whole life becomes way easier. It's not that, oh, adding 2 hours of meditation into my life, what's going to have to go in order for me to do that? You know, it's much more like those 2 hours of meditation mean that the rest of my day is a far more efficient, far more effective, far more satisfying experience. Anyway, that was my sort of declaration, however many, months ago, 18 months ago-ish. And a little less than that, 15 months ago. But since then, I have fallen far from the 2 hours a day tree. And I've been very consistently meditating throughout. But the experience of the other night also taught me what that time investment is really doing. Meditation is something that every single day that we connect, that makes a huge difference. 5 minutes is orders of magnitude, exponentially better than not meditating at all. And things happen when we meditate for longer periods of time that don't happen when we meditate for 5 minutes. I'm not saying there might not be people out there who don't need 2 hours. It's not their thing. That's not what they want or need. But for somebody like me, for whom this really is kind of, I'm very conscious of the effect that it has when I do that, and I'm increasingly conscious of the effect when I don't. The difference is striking. It's quite obvious. It's quite clear. And that's that time spent sitting and realizing how much activity is happening in my system, how much movement is happening in my mind. You know, nothing like sitting still for essentially 8 hours to make me realize, wow, I'm all over the place. My mind is just running nonstop. And so it's invigorating, and it reminds me how high a priority that is. It reminds me what a genuine, it just reminds me what I want that practice to look like, and what I feel like when that practice is really deep, and when I'm really in it, as opposed to when I'm touching it here and there, but not really in it. So, yeah. So it's been just fun to clock that. It's been great to observe that, and it's nice. You know, again, I love that I had this spontaneous invitation, felt like literally from the cosmos. I mean, Sadhguru was like, tonight is the planetary upsurge in energy. Don't miss it. And I thought, okay, I don't want to miss it. And I'm here alone in an Airbnb in Houston. I can sleep in, you know, I can take a nap the next day. How amazing that I have that option. So yeah, that's where I am today. I'm feeling very grateful for that, and I'm kind of, you know, feels like next steps coming down the pike, and yeah, it's exciting. It's good. It's good. I feel like I took the opportunity to open my system for what's coming next. And that feels really, really, really good. So I'm sure there will be more. I appreciate you. Thank you. This reference point has been really powerful for me as I've been in this, you know, just talking about these choices, and that, you know, what my intuition is leading me to feels all the more powerful because I can share it and because it's being received. So thank you. Love you. I'll see you tomorrow.